Hola. Hello. Yes, I can. Yes, I can still hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Hello, now I'm turning you down. I think you may just have to live with that. So, one to do one.
And my external microphone is on. Let's make sure that doesn't clickety clack. So now you hate that. Shall we clap?
One, two, three. Okay.
Getting good at this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So now, first of all, very nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. You look great.
Last time,
Yes.
your recording device crapped out at some point.
Did it?
So they only got a partial file from you.
Oh
or
no.
whatever.
Okay,
know,
let me
I
make
know.
sure. What? Oh, let's see what's happening.
I mean,
It's recording.
No, it's working fine
Yeah, I
now.
know.
But in any event, and I also had trouble with mine as well because
All right.
Jason called me in the middle of our call, and then I have to reset after anyone tries to call me. So
I see. I
because
see.
I'm not, I never remember with the 19 things. I mean, I could run an airplane with this kind of setup. And I always forget to do a block call. So
I know. Actually, let me do, if I can do this, a do not disturb right now. Oh, please, really? Okay. Do not disturb. I have all these slot machine games I play, all kinds of things that want to give me notifications. That's what I do with my time. I
Yeah,
play fake
yeah.
slot machines. Well, you know.
we all get through the other any
Do
way
we?
we can.
Yeah, I guess.
Do we? Do we?
Is that really? Is that a promise or a threat?
Oh. Yeah. Lovely.
Yes.
So a
Yes.
couple things. I spoke to Jason, and Jason
Yes.
is
He's off
caught
the
up.
project?
He's caught
Oh,
up.
good. Oh, wow, good.
Yeah, he's changed his number. He's
His
caught
name.
up. He's caught up.
Good.
So his
Which means
suggestion.
what?
I said,
Okay,
so
go
what
ahead.
is it that you haven't heard yet? And he said, well, there's a couple things that you guys have still said that you already did, but you haven't heard yet. And he said, well, there's a couple things that you guys have still said that you already did, but you may have, but we don't have it. So
Okay.
two things, which is why did you go to Mexico? Apparently
Okay.
we've not covered that.
I believe
And
that.
also apparently you need to ask me, so how did I get into the priesthood? And I'll give you a direct answer.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Let's,
Shall
we start with that now?
Rather than lying, apparently.
Right, I guess. So how did you get into the priesthood?
I'm supposed to ask because Jason said,
Right.
how did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
So those are the two things that I bring forward. What
Okay,
are there
yeah.
things that you have in your mind as well?
No, I mean, I've expressed to you the things that I think that I'm most interested to speak about, and I may have spoken about them enough. I don't know. One, my substance abuse and my recovery from that substance abuse, which will be wrapped into Mexico when we talk about that.
Okay.
Mental illness and my
Pros,
experience
cons.
with
Yeah.
what's that? Pros and cons.
Right.
I'm a thumbs up.
Got it.
Those are the things. I mean, we could get into. I think probably we've touched on religion in a direct way as much as I think we need to. It'll come in when we talk about why you joined the priesthood, and it may be related to things that we talk about. But I think trying to come head on at that one, the conversation we had on that, not having heard it, but being in it, felt like the weakest of our conversations.
Yeah, and I bet Jason can find pieces of it to use if he wants to.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. The relevance, I don't know what relevance that has to whatever. I have no idea what this is. So I'm going to rely on Jason to say what he wants to hear, and I think we should probably attack that. And then absolutely the Mexico thing will lead into the things that I think I want to talk about, but I don't want to plan it too much, right? Like,
Okay, great.
you know what I mean?
Great. So, yeah, good. I reached out to you because I was, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, following you on Instagram. And on Instagram, you were posting small dances, and those small dances were coming from Mexico City. Now, I've spent some time in Mexico City, which I love very much. And so I wondered, what the hell were you doing in Mexico City? So that's, I think that's what kind of kicked me off to messaging you on the Instagram, and
Right.
then we had that conversation. Why
Yeah.
were you in Mexico?
Well, that's a very good question. So I ended up in Mexico City, and this is okay. So I was going through, oh my God, why do I even start with this question? I ended up in Mexico City because of Eduardo. Eduardo is the person who he reached out to me on a Grinder, and out of nowhere. And at first, when he spoke to me, I said to him, "Oh, hey, bot, what's up?" Because you have all kinds of people on Grinder who are reaching out, who are not real people, who are just trying to get you to click on the link to whatever god awful thing they want you to go to, right? So at first, I assumed he was just this bot, and then he turned out to be he got the joke and he rolled with the joke, which told me that he was someone interesting. And then over the next couple of weeks, we proceeded to have what turned into a fairly intense online relationship that I thought would be nothing more than that.
Now
Uh,
explain to me,
yeah,
pardon me, but Grinder
yeah,
seems to me, because I'm obviously I'm not in a position in my life where I use apps like that, but
obviously.
but
Well,
maybe not so obviously, but I
yeah,
don't.
let's qualify that you do not. Thank you. According
Whatever
to the
is
vows you've taken.
whatever's obvious or not.
Right. Because
But
believe me.
for some reason, I thought Grinder was much more like connecting. You're here. Let's hook up,
Right.
person
Yes.
to person.
Right.
How does that
Yeah.
work internationally?
Well, that was my question too. I had
Oh, okay.
never, I did not use it in that way. When you log on to Grinder, the first splash page you'll get that you can go to is one of just people who are on, right? You can choose to get just a general sense of who's on, and then you get who's close to you. And I haven't used it in a little while, actually, so I don't remember how it works exactly. But I know you can see who's currently active, right?
Mhm.
And I have no idea, and I've never used it as anything. I'm not one who's into chatting much, right? If I'm going to go out and I'm like wanting to hook up with somebody, I want to go on Grinder. I find it extraordinarily frustrating. I want to go on and just be like, "Do you want to have sex? Yes, let's have sex." That's it, right? And oftentimes it ends up being message, 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 nothing, right? To the point where I'll put on there like no more than 3 messages, and we get to it because it's like you either want to or you don't. Because I'm not there in that particular form. I'm not there to make a relationship. I'm not there to chat with anybody. That's not what I want. I'm not there to make friends, right? It's not RuPaul's friend race. It's Grinder, right? You have people on Grinder who are like, not here for sex. I'm like, then what are you doing here? And during COVID, yes, I understand. It became a different thing, right? And I understood the value of that as I was exploring sort of fetishes and what you could do remotely, you know? Something I never really mastered. And so I sort of pulled my sex life back quite a bit. But that's what people were doing more on Grinder as COVID happened, right? And then also, here's a little secret: people were also having sex all throughout COVID. Still are. It's just the way it is, right? And even when it first happened, I mean, it's just the reality of life. Sure, you took a vow and you get to go to heaven because of it. Okay.
Okay,
Some
let me
of
just
us.
point out. Let me just
Go
point
ahead,
out.
please. Go ahead,
As a
please.
Catholic priest, you don't
Yes.
have sex, but you hear about sex all of the time.
I bet you do.
So yeah, I got
bet you
it.
do.
I got it. It's really hard. People often think that mistakenly that priests are scandalized, and it takes a
Right.
lot to scandalize a priest because we listen to
Right.
people all day long. So
Right. Really? You find that to be true? And we're going to just diverge a little bit. You find that to be true across the people in your priesthood?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I find
Really?
I find priests in general, if they're actually finding a way in this life at all, that
Right.
they begin to be much larger interiorly than they were
Right.
maybe when they started, because
Yeah.
they hear they hear people's lives and the
Right.
suffering in their lives, but also the whole variety of the lives. So
Right. Right. No, that makes sense. And I imagine you would go one of two, well, a couple ways with it, I suppose. But like I know you're coming from a background where you're not going to be scandalized because you've been exposed to that a world, and to whatever degree you were involved in sexual liaisons when you were able to do so, but at least you had friends and all that kind of stuff. And I imagine there are people who are coming up who never were exposed to that lifestyle and are suddenly being exposed to it for the first time when they become a priest. And you either, well, you judge them and you're a bad priest, or you don't and you deal with it, right? Like, and you somehow incorporate it into your worldview. I imagine there are priests who are like, oh no, you
yeah,
did it. No,
very
really,
few, very few.
really. Oh, that's good.
Just because it's a really hard way to go forward.
Yeah, because what do you
I mean,
say
I
to
think
somebody?
Well, also it's just like, how's that going to work? How are you going to be of
Right.
any use? But
Right. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I'm just going to move a little bit here. Sorry, because there's somebody
that's
in the
fine.
bathroom here, and I'm just going to try to get sound a little bit better. There you are. I don't know how much it's going to help, but there we are. Um, so anyway, oh crap a doodly. What was
So
I saying?
Grinder, you met
Grinder.
this
Yeah.
Eduardo person.
So Eduardo, I met on Grinder, and so yes, I have not been using it that way. I don't understand why he reached out to me the way that he did. I do somewhat now that I know him, but um, it didn't make sense to me, right? I've never engaged in that kind of relationship with somebody where you were getting to know somebody intimately. We would chat every day and we would talk. Ultimately, we start like talking on the phone, knowing or thinking we would never meet. And the connection was when we spoke the first time. Actually, I think the first time we chatted, once we got past the bot stuff and really got into it, uh, it was pretty intense. Uh, to the point where we were sort of playing this game uh, without really discussing it, where he was my king and I was his queen, and we were playing at. And it's hard to describe what that means exactly, because I never had imagined myself as a woman. I still don't. That's not. It's not. But I enjoyed being that role. And I enjoyed sort of, at first I was his princess. And then after a while of talking, I became his queen because he'd seen my dance work and we talked about my life. And anyway, there was something to gaining that title with him. You know what I mean? I had to earn it. And it was lovely. And so he was part of my recovery. At one point, I said to him, within the first week, I said to him, "Oh, I just confessed casually because it's who I am that I was using meth." And he instantly sort of said, "Nope, I'm not interested in talking to you. You know, I'm not. You're just like I don't like talking to people who are high, which I totally understand." And I was like, "Oh, blah, 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 blah." And I had tried to quit. I wanted to quit. I didn't quit for him, but I used his respect for me and wanting to maintain that relationship with him. I said, I'll quit. I want to quit. And I want you to, you know what I mean? So I did. And he was very good. And he's a hard taskmaster. He did not put up with any kind of crap. He comes from a background. I don't want to speak too much about his life or why he had the reasons he did, but he was pretty harsh with me, you know, in the way that you can be harsh with somebody when you care about them and don't let them get away with bullshit. And so it was hard, but he was there for me throughout that whole thing, right? And so we still, at this point, I was thinking we would never meet, but the relationship was very intense. And then I realized that I was going to be turning 50, and I was going to be turning 50 on election day. And I thought, well, I don't want to be here and have my 50th birthday happen on election day. And I thought, well, just dreamily at first, why don't I come? And we were chatting about, what if I came and I visited and just came and visited you? I can do that. It's not that expensive. I looked into it. It was not, the flight there was maybe $300 return flight. So it was very inexpensive. I was like, well, hell, I can just pick up and come for a trip, right? And then I went away on this camping trip. I don't know to what degree we've discussed the camping trip, where I sort of, everyone thought I'd gone insane. I decided to quit my job. I decided, okay, so let me see. As I quit meth, my anger level within the first month was very, very high. I did anyway. It was very difficult for me to control my anxiety. It was very difficult for me to control like a flash to anger. And it would happen very quickly. I could control it, but it was very, very difficult for me to do so. And I was surrounded by a world that was maddening. And I had a right to be angry, right? At the people who weren't wearing masks, at the people who were supporting Trump, at all these things the world to me at that time felt like it was on the precipice. And I'd been thinking this for a while, but then it was just like heightened by the coming off meth and the way that my body reacted to that. It was on the precipice of potentially we were going into civil war. You know, it could have happened. And also, we were destroying ourselves. What was going to happen if this pandemic ran out of control? Nobody knew. Nobody still does. I mean, we're getting a handle on it, but at that time, especially before there was any kind of vaccine, what the hell was going on? And why were people not wearing masks, right? And that's when I started walking up the streets here in Wallingford and in Seattle and yelling at people, walking up the street, stopping to one street and yelling at them. And I realized, and as it became increasingly kind of crazy.
Was there a particular moment or incident that is illustrative of that time of you shouting at somebody for some reason?
Yeah, there is. Yes. I was walking up the street and I saw a guy in a SUV or whatever, and there was a homeless guy, and the homeless guy bumped into his SUV he was pushing a shopping cart up the street, and he bumped into his SUV. And the guy got out of his SUV and started yelling at this homeless guy. And I was about 2 blocks away, and I ran up and got between the two of them, right? And the guy's saying to this homeless guy, I'm going to call the police. And I yell back at him, and I say, you're going to call the police, and what? And what? And what? I was like, leave this guy alone. And I'm yelling at this guy who's like 6 foot. He might as well have had like a cropped, like military head cut, but like my age, but looked my age, like 50, like the kind of toxic male he appeared to me in that moment that I should have been afraid of, right? That could have done anything. But I'm standing between this guy and this homeless guy telling him he's like, I'm going to call the police. I'm like, do it. And he's like, and I'm waiting for this homeless man to, he's an older homeless guy too. He's like probably, who knows, right? He looked like he was 70, could have been like my age, but like street hard 50. He's pushing his cart away, and I'm thinking, I'll let this guy get some distance, right? Because what is this guy doing, yelling? Like maybe the guy with the cart did intend to hit his car, right? He's like, what am I going to do about my car? And I was like, fix it! What are you going to do? What's this guy going to do for your car, right? So the guy gets about 4 blocks away, and I know how dangerous what I'm doing is, right? Because I'm standing in front of a guy who I have no idea what he's capable of. People in the world are very angry. That particular type of man, is very angry. And, people have been run over in Seattle for standing up for their rights, for standing up for other people's rights, standing up for other people's rights. They've been killed in Seattle, right? So the guy with the shopping cart is like 4 blocks away. I'm like, okay, I've done my bit. I'm not going to go out with this dude. You know what I mean? I'm not going to, that's all. Now it's between, the homeless guy's got to stand up for himself now. He's got 4 blocks on him. Go. So I start walking up the street, and there's a median on 45th and Wallingford in the middle, right, where you could turn. And the guy, I just turned to look back, and the guy in the SUV has gone up, pulled into the median, and pulled over next to the homeless guy. And I'm like, you motherfucker, really? So I turn around, and I start running 5 blocks up 45th, yelling out loud to people who are sitting outside having their lunch, right, in Wallingford, which is a very, liberal but politely liberal neighborhood, right? I'm yelling, somebody get my back! Somebody have my back! Right? I'm yelling it because I really I mean it. Because I mean it, right? And I yell at the guy. I'm yelling at him. You leave that fucking guy alone! And the guy pulls out. And I yell and yell and yell. And then at a certain point I go, you know what? That's it. If the people in this neighborhood aren't going to stand up, I've done what I can do. I'm not going to put myself in serious harm's way. I've done what I feel like I'm willing to do today. As far as making that guy know that he's wrong, making people around him realize what he's doing, and if nobody else is going to stand up, that's on the neighborhood, right? Because I'm not going to get in there and stand in front of the gun if there wasn't one. But I wasn't literally going to take a bullet for this guy. I'm like, at this point, But that was illustrative to me. Illustrative to me. To me, of a moment that could have gone a lot differently and could have gone really bad.
But also the edge you were on as far as
right, the edge that I was on in anger, and because a lot of times I would be yelling at these people in Wallingford, and they're pretty easy to intimidate. You know what I mean? Because they'll be like, oh my God. I'm like, have you given a person $1 today if you own a home? I should. I gave it to church. I don't want to hear about that. That person right there needs money. I should help him. Yeah, you should. And I walk away, right? Pretty easy to do. Who am I to do this? But I felt in that moment, yes, because the need was so great. It still is. People are still living in bus stops in my neighborhood. And it's cold. And people have homes. They own these homes. And I don't care if you're giving to your charity that distributes it a month from now, what do they have to do? Give that person $1 or whatever, do what you want. But I can call you out for it because this person needs help, and don't tell me whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I realize, and I'm on that edge where I do it. I can't stop myself. Now I can do it. I'm learning to be better about not yelling at people because it's really not the way to go.
Oh, good for you. What do you want, a medal?
Yeah, right. Oh my God, don't even start me out. Do you want a medal? Do you want a medal for doing the right thing? That's what
Yes,
Eduardo said
I
to
do.
me in the beginning. I know. He's like, because Eduardo tells me early on, and this is an important lesson that I learned. Well, actually, let me finish that story. So I realize my anger may eventually meet up with an equal and opposing anger, and they're going to have a gun, and I won't. Right? Because I say to this guy, I'm standing in front of him, and I'm like, I'm not going to touch you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I yell this out loud. He goes, I'm not touching you either. I'm like, good. So you should leave this guy alone. Right? But not everyone's going to back down that easily. Right? I'm afraid. And I also realized that the one part of the way to get off meth is proximity, just not having it around you, right? So I decide I'm going to quit my job because I have to. This anger, and at work, I'm yelling at people at work. I'm like, oh my God, calm down, Hando. I'm doing a good job. I'm a good employee. I never yell at the patients. But like if things aren't working, like because COVID starts and everything suddenly is different and nothing works. You have to use this new phone system, and the phone system, you're like, I can barely get up in the morning and put my clothes on and get here, and I have to learn this phone system that isn't working, and I have to adjust to, you know what I mean? All these things are like, all this technology that should have helped us, none of it is really that, because we're not there yet, right? We're not to the future yet. And I'm like, God damn, son of a bitch, you know what I mean? I can't control my anger at how anything that doesn't work, I'm so pissed at it, right? I'm like, why? This isn't logical. This isn't logical. Welcome to the world, Stephen. Right. I don't need help. Right. The world does. It's not on me. Like, I'm the one who's wrong because that doesn't work and I'm mad at it. Well, yes, in a way, that's true. Because everything's imperfect and you got to deal with it. And yelling at it's not the way to fix it. Anyway, I could not yell at it. So I decided, I can't remember the moment that I decided. I say, I'm going to come. I think at first, God, when did I make the big decision? I must have quit my job. I quit my job and said that I'm going to go to Mexico. Eduardo's like, come on this date. I'm like, I can't remember that. I know that I go on this camping trip and I have this moment where I'm like, I want to leave Facebook. And so I put this naked picture on Facebook and it doesn't get taken down. And then I'm like, that's interesting. And I want to leave Facebook anyway. So I'm like, how far can I push it? So I start posting all kinds of crazy stuff. And people don't know. And if I talked about this before, stop me if you're familiar with this story. People don't know what I try to make it clear, but not everyone's following everything that I'm writing on Facebook. So all these people are like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? Because I've already admitted on Facebook. I say on Facebook, I'm off meth. I'm quitting meth. I wrote that on Facebook. So everybody on Facebook who sees it, and plenty of people respond, know that I just quit meth. And then I'm doing this crazy stuff, right? Posting a picture of an immolating monk, the monk who immolated himself. Doing this dance to the song about the guy. There's a song called Great Shot about the, I can't remember what position he held as treasurer in the 70s, I think, or the early 80s, who went on and he got framed for this financial scandal that happened in the state. He was going to lose his job, his livelihood, and he had a press conference and he basically said, this is what's happening, rambling, crazy message, and then shot himself during the press conference, right? So there's a song called Great Shot, which talks about that, where he's saying like, great shot, like you sent a message, whatever he's saying in the song. And I do this dance to it. And somebody tells me later, they thought like at the end of the song, I was going to come out and shoot myself. I was like, oh my God, no, right? But I'm like, I'm going to go to Mexico. And I take this long walk. I know we've talked about this, but I decide that I'm going to go into town. There's no way to get into town. There's nothing around. I want a cigarette. There's nowhere to get a cigarette near this camping ground in Moses Lake, Washington. There's no way to get into town. I can't order cigarettes through like whatever delivery service they have. They're like, well, yeah, we deliver food, but not cigarettes. I'm like, well, I want a cigarette. Is there a shuttle? No, there's no shuttle. Well, I'm going to walk 2 hours into town. So I walk 2 hours into town on this winding road that has no sidewalk on it. And I decide when I'm walking up that road, I'm like, I could just go to Mexico and not come back. I could just go to Mexico and not come back. Okay. In my mind, I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to travel across Mexico. Like, I'm going to go to all the little towns in Mexico. And I'm going to be this magical figure, right? Exactly. Like, hi, everybody. Mexico. Tell me about your people. Tell me about your traditions and your customs.
Oh,
Like,
Mexico.
Mexico. Hola, ¿cómo estás, mis amigos?
La
Like,
reina de Mexico.
totally, right? Crazy. But I decided I'm going to go. And I'm not going to come back. And I tell Eduardo I'm coming on this date. And my father, at first he sees this picture of me, all the stuff that I'm doing on the day that everyone thinks I'm going crazy. And he says, stop what you're doing on Facebook. Stop it. My friends are seeing this. And I'm like, Dad, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm taking responsibility for myself. I'm not doing anything lewd. The picture that I did was a nude picture of me, but it wasn't a lewd picture. It was me standing in the woods, beautiful, artistic shot, whatever. And then I say, I'm going to Mexico. And he's like, I'm going to Mexico City, right? I've never even seen a picture of Mexico City, right? I don't know anything about it. And of course, anybody thinks about going to Mexico, and but not everybody, but most people think about Mexico, and they think about the cartel, and they think about, not the cartel, oh God, the name of the cartel is, the drug cartel in Mexico is?
Sinaloa.
What?
Sinaloa. Cartel?
No, what's the big, you call, oh my God. Oh, well, I'll come back to that. But I think about the killings and all, you know what I mean, or the people getting abducted. And like, these states are good. Don't go here because this is where people get their heads chopped off. Like, right? And I don't even know that that's not true. But I'm like, yeah, I'm going. And my dad's like, don't go. And I'm like, and so I decided to buy my ticket as quickly as I can because my father's calling me all the time, trying to talk me out of it. And Eduardo was saying, don't come now. And I'm like, I have to come now. Because my father, I need to relieve him of that stress of worrying about me making that decision and talking me out of it. I bought the ticket, Dad. I'm going. You're going to have to see what happens. And so Eduardo's like, I'm like, I'm coming. And then I start looking into what Mexico City is. And I look at some videos. But that was the decision. It was very much made in a moment of crisis. In a moment, it seemed like I can go because there weren't many places you could travel to.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get out of the United States. I felt like I had to get out of the States, both for my sanity's sake. You know, practical reason I didn't want to be here for my birthday. But then I was just going crazy. And things in the United States at that time were so insane. And my response to it was so strong. I was like, I have to get out of this situation. And the proximity of getting away from accessibility to meth. I had to quit. People were like, go into a recovery program. I'm like, no. You tell me a program I can get into, A of all. And B, no. That's not the way I want to do it. So that's why I went to Mexico City.
And it worked.
And it worked.
So far. I mean, yeah. It worked
did.
in itself. Yeah.
20 today is 22 weeks. Almost over 5 months that I've been off.
Congratulations.
That's pretty great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, during a pandemic. And not to say, and I did it cold turkey. Not to say that everyone should do that, but that's how I did it. And I did it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel now, you're never out of, that's the thing about being an addict. You're never not an addict. It's really annoying, right? Like for the rest of my life, I'm going to be like, ugh. Like I'm never really out of harm's way, but I don't want to it's like, oh, Jesus, okay already.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm mostly out of harm's way. I don't feel like doing it again. I don't. I'll be honest. Maybe someday, like I have to wait until my body fixes itself, and it's not done yet. My sex drive is still for nothing. I'm better with anxiety now, but still I'm not quite right, you know? I don't think meth is something I'll do it again, but cocaine or something. Maybe I'll try it, you know, whatever. Someday might come. But at this point, I'm like, no. I know what I've done, especially the work that I've put into it, and the fact that I knew this was one of the things that I used to help me stay off. I knew that the opposing side, I am a better, they would want me on drugs, right? They want me to be on drugs.
They being.
They being the other side. Let's say whatever the other side is for me, the opposing side, the Trump supporters or whoever, because I'm weaker. I'm not standing in my full strength to do the things in the world that I feel like I'm capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm on drugs, I'm not in the position to do them. I'm not in my right mind. I was able to do a lot, and most people did not know when I admitted that I was on drugs. Most people had no idea. Even people who should have known. Yeah. I felt should have known. You know what I mean? Because I was really good at I was really good at being on drugs.
How is it being back? Have you been able to see friends with the COVID and stuff? Or
no,
it's been about the same. So you might as well be in Mexico as far as that's concerned.
As far as that's concerned, yeah. Yeah, it is. And I've been better. Like in Mexico, I never was scared in Mexico. And I might have been naive, but I never felt afraid in Mexico. Not very often. One, being a gay man, there was never like Eduardo and I could walk around. When we did go out, he doesn't like to go out as much as I did. But there was never an issue with the two of us anybody who's seen me walking around these days, I can be pretty squishy. I can be pretty flamboyant. And I was that way in Mexico, like 100%. Sometimes very much on purpose, like walking around like I'm Rhea Hayworth, and never. One time, one guy sort of was aggressive towards me. But mostly, the guys are like, either don't care, or they're like, hey, there seems to be, my impression in Mexico City anyway, was a much more tolerant, appreciative attitude of the energy that I was bringing to the streets, which is not necessarily true here.
Yeah, right? But the street culture in Seattle is notoriously cold, as you know.
Yes.
And Mexico City has been a great big fat city for a lot longer than Seattle.
Yeah, for sure.
It's Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's much more of a ragtag, just like everything goes. Like Mexico City, it's hard to describe Mexico City. Like, it's beautiful. I loved being there, but it wasn't a city that I think I got some really good videos and some good footage of it, you know what I mean? But you couldn't take a picture of Mexico City. I couldn't. That really would convey what it was like to be there. Because you sort of look out and you're like, well, it looks like shit on a shingle, kind of. It's just like, like a lot of the place is just like crumbly, just like craziness on craziness on. And it's like, yes, exactly. It's life on life on life on life on life. And some of the neighborhoods that I stayed in Coyoacan, was very more ordered, which is like less interesting to me. At first I got there, I was like, oh, it's nice, big streets and everything. But then ultimately I was like, oh, this is kind of not really my place. I was much more comfortable in the neighborhoods that were poorer, where it was just like, literally people's laundry is hanging on the line and dogs are wandering around the streets and this place is nice and that place is crumbling and it's all right, And so that was a feel. When I flew into Mexico City, I don't know if you had this experience flying in, but I was, we could talk about the craziness if you want to, of what was going through my mind when I went into Mexico City. We can do that in a second. But flying into Mexico City, I had really watched 2 videos on YouTube about it, both of them about 10 minutes long. I was like, this is Mexico City. Welcome to Mexico City. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's where I'm going to maybe spend the rest of my life. Okay. But flying in, you fly into it, and there's the hills that surround it, and it stretches seemingly infinitely, all at the same level. Like buildings, there's an area where there's some taller buildings, but mostly everything's about 3 stories high, and it's just like hugging the ground up onto the hills, and it felt like a scene out of the Lord of the Rings or something, just like some magical place that doesn't seem to exist, like you go to a city and you expect it to be a city. And this is one of the largest cities in the world. And it's like, but it's just like all 3 stories high and it just stretches on forever. It was amazing. Like, it was overwhelming to see it, I loved it. It was just so my aesthetic, I was like, oh my God, look at that life. Just like peanut butter smeared on the ground. They're just like everywhere.
Oh my God, the whole entire city of a cheap hotel.
I love that. And
I
everyone's
love
so
it.
welcoming. I'll take it. I'll take it.
22 million people living in a cheap
22 million
motel.
people in a cheap motel. I love it. I loved it. I loved it. Did you want to talk about what was going through my mind when I was flying into Mexico City?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So part of what you go through when you're on drugs and then coming off of it, and this is, I think, also speaks to my personality, but there was a lot, I was trying to put together reality, right? For myself, which I think you would have to do when you're coming off of drugs, because you lose touch with what's real. You know, when you're doing drugs all the time. And I was doing drugs for like probably 4 years, doing meth daily. So you lose your sense, and I had my job and things that would connect me to what was real and what was real, but then you start to lose your sense of what reality is in a way. And then COVID happens, and then everyone's kind of been dislodged a bit, right? So I'm trying to put together reality during this time. And I start imagining that there are these big plans for me because I have all these gifts. And what is it that I'm doing exactly? And why is Eduardo contacting me out of nowhere? Is there some secret group of, right? And is there some secret group of like, there's a revolution in the world. They know how fucked up America is. They're going to help save it. We're going to reach out. We have all these agents who are going to like try to hit up American men who seem to be connected or somehow, I don't know what, and help. And they're going to bring them to Mexico City and it'll be the training grounds for what's going to go going forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
no, I'm
somehow
with you.
Beyonce,
I'm totally with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
Beyonce and Jay-Z are involved. They're the ones who are like, there's this big like of in entertainment, because I do think this part of it is true, that entertainers have been putting messages through poetry throughout the years of like what it is to be a person, how to be a better person, right? Because you listen to some of the songs and you're like, what are they even talking about? But if you think about it in the concept of like, oh, that we should all give into this larger love, that we all can be bigger than ourselves. All these ways, all these tools that I thought were important for us getting through this time right now. But I thought it was a much more organized sort of conspiracy or like revolution of artists. And I was being called to go be a part of them. And I was going to get off the plane in Mexico City and Jay-Z and Beyonce were going to be there. And I was like, oh my God. And like when I was getting on the plane, this is absolutely true. Because it was scary. I'm getting onto a plane to fly to Mexico City, right? It's all Mexicans flying back to Mexico City. I was the only white person on the plane. I imagine, when I'm in the airport, I've got to get out of here because someone's going to try to stop me. And these Mexicans are here to protect me. And I try to like get behind them in certain ways as though a sniper was going to be there to take me out. And this is partly like, I know it's not true, but I also believe it might be true, right? I'm not totally gone, but a part of me is like, well, if it is true, I'm probably better off here behind this man and his son, his baby son. I'm just going to park myself right here. He's here to protect me in case there's a sniper. I hope the baby doesn't take it, but I'm going to just stay here. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't let the baby take it. And he parked himself in front of me to hide me
That
from anybody that
baby's on
might
its
try to
own.
stop me. Yeah, the baby, you know what? It's a baby. What has it done? You know? Prove yourself or get out. But honestly, like in my mind, I'm imagining that may be true. And I was very disappointed to arrive in Mexico City and find out it was not true. That Eduardo was actually very rich and that he was a part of all this. And I was going to be ushered into this wonderful world where I was going to be like, I would have my gifts and you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I did it. And I'm here and I'm ready to fight with you. I'm ready to fight with you using the power of dance and song and whatever. Right? Like a bit of craziness, I know.
Sure, but that was.
And I know, yeah, I didn't get there and I wasn't like, oh my God, you're not. I didn't like freak out when I found it wasn't true. But I was a little upset. I was a little sad, you know, because I would have been nice. That's what it would have been. I mean, I had a great time. But I'd be in a better spot right now if that were true. If I were hanging with, you know, Jay-Z and Beyonce and we're like, I know, right? Remember that time I came to Mexico City? Because there were like some other, like, because I'm like, I have this whole like Harry Potter thing in my mind too. Or like any time when like X-Men or whatever, I'm like, you're being called into the group, right? Because there were some other people arriving in Mexico City this other guy from Canada or whatever, and I'm like, kind of giving him a wink, like, all right, right here. You got the call too, huh? What gifts you got? You know what? Don't tell me. Shh, I got it. So I was a little bit sad. And part of me still like, can that still be true? And I don't think at this point they're really holding the secret if they're putting me through what they're putting me through now. But
Yeah.
I wish it was true. I wish it was.
Nice. Well,
because I want to be a part of that revolution, you know what I mean? And I think that there is value in that idea that like art is part of one of the things that can pull us through, right? That this poetry and this mysticism that we've talked about in the past is part of what we have to get through if we want to really make the leap to a new society, which will take us a long time to get to. But if we want to change some of the fundamental things that are wrong with what's going on now, that we have to imagine that we're better than ourselves, that we have to imagine we're superheroes, so that we can behave as though we are superheroes, so we can do things that we are capable of, but we don't know that we are capable of, and we stop ourselves from doing, right? Because I find out that I'm capable of things I did not know that I was capable of, right? Because I just suddenly believed I could do them. I was like, oh my God, I can do that. And I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah.
But it took me thinking I was a part of this crazy revolution to get to that spot, which I no longer believe, unfortunately, because I don't have a job. I wish I was.
How was your week in art, by the way?
How was what?
Your week in art. Your week in dancing.
This week?
This last week, yeah.
Oh, it's been actually pretty great. I mean, I leave that to the critics to tell me how great it has been. Anybody paying attention yet? I don't want to get these podcasts out. Like, come on, let's get some eyes on the Jesus. But good. I mean, I've been walking around Wallingford. Like, I made the change. I'm trying to like really shift over to this because I got back and it was a hard adjustment and I was scared and I felt the tension in the streets here. There's tension in the streets in Mexico too, but it was different, or my relationship to it was different because I was a foreigner and I was a guest and I didn't, you know what I mean? I was able to and I think it was different. I think that the tension is different. Here it's both COVID and it's, a lot of the horrible shit that we are dealing with in the United States still. And so at first I was afraid, and then I've yelled at some people since I've been back. I have. And I shouldn't be proud of it. And I am a little bit, and I really honestly should not be. I shouldn't be, because it's not really the right way to behave, and it's not the right way to handle it. But in the moments I was doing it, I felt I was right. And I've come around to okay, I just need to do what I can do. The dancing, I'm trying to get away from this idea that the dancing is going to make me famous or that the dancing has any value beyond itself. I just have to do what I need to do in the moment, be present in it. But I've been singing too, really not holding back at all, singing. And I'm able to sing because I've been singing all the time. I'm hitting notes and have a belting power that I've never had before. And I'm letting it loose, right? And I'm trying not to do it in a way that seems attacking, not next to somebody, although sometimes, but often trying not to. But just be if I'm today I was singing what is it? Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Everybody, move your feet and feel united. Oh, and I'm singing that as loud as I can, walking in the center lane of 45th. So there's there's traffic on the left of me, traffic on the right of me, and I'm in the turn lane in the middle. And I'm just everybody, move your feet and feel united. Why? I don't know. Because I think that I want people to get the message. And I'm finding people are singing with me. And some people are starting to dance with me. A young woman started to dance with me. And I was singing, just kind of grooving with me. And I was I almost wanted to cry. I was thank you. That's all I've ever wanted. Someone to join me.
Any of that captured on your dance videos?
Nope. No. I let go of this a while back. In Mexico City, I was doing this too. I was dancing all the time. I record them when it seems right. But also I'll just dance. And realizing that the value is not in the capturing of it. The value is just for the people that are there. And I don't want them to feel like I'm not doing it for anybody but you, right? I'm giving you this, whatever. I'm performing for you. Yeah. We don't have a venue now where we can perform. So partly I'm going I'm a performer and I'm performing right now. And I'm trying to be conscious of not everybody wants to be performed to. And I'm trying to be conscious of that. But also I'm just walking up the street, going to a store. You're on your phone. I'm not hurting you, right? As long as I'm not chasing you down the street, everybody, chasing you into the store, right? This morning, I did a dance in the QFC, the local grocery store here. I put my phone down, and I was early. It was 6 a.m. There was hardly anybody else in the store, right? I was aware of that. I went into an aisle. There was nobody in the aisle. I put it down, and I danced. It was to that song. I put my phone down, and I danced. I had my mask on and everything. And about not quite a minute into it, the manager says, you need to stop that. This is a store. You can't be dancing in here. I was like, okay. And I pick it up, and I go out. I'm like, I got it on tape. That's all I needed. Thanks. Bye. And that seems fine to me. Like, I wasn't in anybody's way. I'm conscious of, like, I go into the QFC and I sort of float in like I'm a butterfly. You know, I'm listening to my music. I'm grooving to my music. Sometimes I'm singing lightly. I'm not hurting anybody. And would you rather I come in here and be as tense as everybody else is? I'm trying to be like, I'm like Bridget Bardot, just wandering in like, I've got to pick up my coffee and I gotta go. You know, like, and I go and I use the checkout. I try to be as like, I've thought about what it is to be cool, and I've been thinking about this for a while. And for me, like the definition of cool is a person who's doing the exact right thing in that moment, right? Whatever it is, just doing the exact right thing, and they just seem to breeze through life, you know? And so I'm trying to be that. Like I'm going through the self-checkout line, and I'm just like, put it up here, and I check it, and I put it in, and I'm not trying to be cooler than just trying to do it exactly right, in the right timing, not worrying, getting it done, and I'm out. And I throw away my receipt because I don't need it, and I'm boom, gone. Like that. And being that cool, and being respectful of people, and not getting in the way if someone's in my, I let them go, nod, and you go first, please. Da-da-da-da-da. And just doing that is a lot right now, right? People are like, like you can feel it. And I can't tell. Sometimes I'm like, is everybody afraid of everybody, or is everyone afraid of me? I can't tell the difference. And so it doesn't matter at some point. I'm like, well, I'm not hurt. I'm getting in and out as calmly, and you know what I mean? Because I don't want to be afraid. I'm just using the store. If I want to sing, I'm not hurting nobody. You know what I mean? I'm not hurting nobody. I'm not trying to. I don't scream when I'm in the store. I mean, I'd be like singing along like.
I'm Canadian. What do I care?
I'm Canadian, right? This is not on me ultimately. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. And I'm out. Why are you having so much trouble over there? Don't yell at your checkout person. They're just doing the best they can.
Oh my gosh. Seattle has got to get up and running and cast you in a play to get you off the streets.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, please, somebody give me a job. Somebody give me something to do other than what I'm doing. If you want me to stop, give me a job, or I can do it. Are we out of time?
No, check your device. Make sure you're still on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I am.
Okay, great.
Still rolling.
When you say we're doing the best we can during this COVID thing, I have really felt that this week too. But just generally, is like feeling another layer of like, okay, so I pull together a week and I try to, make it work, or the day or the week or whatever. But it's hard on all of us.
It's hard on everybody. I know. And I'm trying to be conscious of that, right? Like I know, because I've had people, I tell people what I'm doing and they're like, well, they might think you're crazy. And a lot of people are crazy. And I'm like, I know, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. People sometimes are afraid of me. And I try.
No, check your device. Make sure you're still on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I am.
Okay, great.
Still rolling. 46 minutes in.
When you say we're doing the best we can during this COVID thing, I have really felt that this week too. But just generally, is like feeling another layer of like, okay, so I pull together a week and I try to, make it work, or the day or the week or whatever. But it's hard on all of us.
It's hard on everybody. I know. And I'm trying to be conscious of that, right? Like I know, because I've had people, I tell people what I'm doing and they're like, well, they might think you're crazy. And a lot of people are crazy. And I'm like, I know, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. People sometimes are afraid of me. And I try to be like, sometimes I don't mind that they're afraid of me because they're not wearing their mask, and I try not to attack them, but I'm not going to like give them an out either, right? Like there was a person walking towards me this morning, this couple, they didn't have their mask on. I did. I just walked. They were like in the same path that I was. I didn't change my path. They had to like, at the last moment, they're like, boop, 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 and they like had to move off to the side. But I didn't even acknowledge them, right? They know what they're doing wrong. That's fine. But like with the singing and stuff, I try to like take it down and also be really good. And, you know what I mean? Not just be like screaming up the street like, crazy, crazy, crazy.
like I'm like trying to be really good at what I'm doing. So people
That's
can
in
tell
your
it's
future.
deliberate.
Don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah,
That's
right.
in your future.
Please. What day is it? But like knowing that, like letting people know that I know what I'm doing, whether or not they understand what I'm doing, right? And I don't know, But like I had a guy at the QFC, the guy out front of the QFC, he's there asking for money, and there's people will wait out there asking for money. And it's this African American guy, probably about my age, maybe in his late 40s. And I walked by him, and this is when I was initially scared, and I kind of stopped singing so much. And he said to me, "Hey man, I miss your singing. You're still singing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of pulling it back. I'm kind of keeping it on the DL because I'm a little afraid these days of people on the other side. They may not be liking it so much." And he's like, "You know what, man? I'm a former Green Beret. I got your back." Which was nice to hear, but also he didn't hesitate. And I was a little bit like, oh my God, my fears are they're a little bit justified, which was a little scary, right? I mean, because he's not crazy. He's just a homeless guy who's a former Green Beret, but he said he had my back, which was nice. And I was like, I hope you're there when I need you, man. And then I saw him the other day, and I was singing again. He's like, I try to sing too. And I'm like, you should do it. Just do it, man. And I see him the other day, and I'm like, I'm back to singing. I'm like, the other side, I don't care. If they want to come at me, I'm going to just be in my joy and be what I am. And he's like, you do it, man. I got your back. You got the Hulk behind you. And I'm like, all right. Good. Thank you. Right? So I'm doing, if not for everybody, for somebody, I'm doing the right thing.
And are you working your way through the Stephen Hando songbook, or are you just whatever song strikes you, or whatever's filling you at the time?
It's whatever's filling me at the time. And I'm trying to be more mindful of my playlist. I realize, okay, so this is also part of my early craziness, which is just the algorithm of YouTube. But I start playing things on YouTube, and I'm like, oh my God, every song I play has something to do with what's going on right now, which of course is because YouTube is noticing what I'm playing, and they're giving me songs that are related to the other songs, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, there's not some big conspiracy or whatever to help me feed me these songs.
I mean, there is, but they're just trying to monetize you. Yeah.
Right, they're just trying to monetize me. And just, they're trying to give me the songs they think that I would like. And I'm trying, and I'm still pretty affected by the songs that are going on. So I'm trying to be like, let's put on some different songs. Right now I have Little Shop of Horrors, and I'm singing like the soundtrack from the movie, which is mostly like Skid Row can get a little bit edgy. If I'm singing Skid Row, I can really nail people with that one. I try to like pull it back a bit. But that's something like Suddenly Seymour or like Somewhere That's Green. This is like, and Move Your Feet. Songs like that are more.
And what kind of crazy are you? Will you play that same soundtrack over and over and over and over and over and over again?
Okay, great question. I will, but I'm also, for me, once I've done a dance to a song, it loses its power. And so I don't usually listen to that song anymore. It takes a while for me to want to listen to that song again. And I'm also aware, there are certain songs that I'll do over and over, but at a certain point I start thinking, ooh, these people I don't want them to think I'm just singing the same song. Like there's some big audience out there, like I'm giving this big concert and nobody wants to hear the same song twice, right? Like as if that's true. But I feel that way. So I switch it up. And sometimes I'll listen to Residente or Cali 13 and some other, he was Puerto Rican, but Mexican artists are like, I haven't gotten into, there's French songs where I know what they're talking about, but the words aren't quite as directly affecting to me, so that when I'm singing along, I don't really know the words. I'm just going to the beat and the sense of what the song's about, so that it's not like Nine Inch Nails, and I'm not like, head like a hole, black as your soul, when I'm like, oh, Stephen, maybe it's not time for that one right now, or maybe at one point it was, but right now for me, I don't need to be like running up the street yelling that at people right now. That's not really where I need to be. Yeah. So in that way, I'm trying to be conscious of that playlist, and I have to change it all the time. And I don't. Anyway, that's not so interesting, but I do have to keep it fresh for myself.
Yeah, someone just shared with me Miley Cyrus singing "Zombie," which was so spectacular.
She's great. I just heard that the other day.
What the hell?
Yep, she's really, really good. It's funny you should mention that because I thought about doing that as a dance, but I was like, that's a little bit like that song's a little bit inflaming. Like she's not talking about how great things are, but she killed it, right? So good,
spectacular,
really good. And did you see the video of her doing it? At first,
Yeah.
I looked at her. I was like, "Oh, really, Miley? Come on!" But she pulls it off, man. She's got
She
that like
does.
fur vest on or whatever, her thing, and she's like pulling around like she's a fucking rock star because she is.
I
Good for
know.
her,
She was,
right?
was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great example of a person who just like legitimately. I think that she authentically. I don't know her. I don't know for sure. I'm just getting a sense from her what I know of her musical sort of course. Authentically is living in the shoes that she's presenting herself to be in, right? She went from being Hannah Montana to being able to sing Zombie and pull off that like total Mick Jagger, like hard, like this rockin' kind of like, I've been around, I've been drinking, I've been doing drugs, I know what life is. Because that's what you have to do. If you want to be a really good rock star, you have to be able to get up on stage and represent, I know what life is. And a person with her privilege, it's hard for her to get there. So I don't know what she went through.
Because she can really look like she was just playing with it. And who knows, maybe that isn't all an act, but it's convincing.
I don't sense it. I mean, maybe, and I don't know what
She's
she
good-
went through,
she's
but
good
she's
at
like,
it, yeah.
she's Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter, so she never had to like fight in the way that some people do for things. She probably had to fight to be Hannah Montana, but then she was, and then she like, so how did she get there? I don't know,
Yeah.
but she seems to authentically take what she understands of it and who she is, and be that, right? Ooh, I'm down to 5% of power. Maybe we should wrap the call up soon. I'll let you have other questions. 'cause
Let's wrap the call up.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So other questions, did you get any mail from me?
No.
All right.
When did you send it?
I sent it last week.
I know, it hasn't come yet. I looked today. Don't think I haven't been looking every day for that check from the IRS or from you. So hopefully tomorrow. I'll let you know. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I got it, and I'm not going to thank you or like say anything.
Yeah,
But no,
I got it a
hasn't come
couple of
yet.
days ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
lay
yeah,
off.
whatever. You think that was a drop in the bucket of my debt. Thank you.
Stop trying to help.
Stop trying, right? Everybody, I want your money, but like really? No, of course.
My poverty
No,
is not here to make you feel better, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, well, we can talk about that another day, but that's one of the big things Eduardo taught me. Big lesson. When you're walking by somebody who's homeless, don't shirk away. Don't feel bad. Because that's the last thing. Because they're going to feel bad about you feeling bad, and they don't fucking need that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
Right? And that's a big lesson for me to learn. Like, just stand in the place where you are and see them, but don't be like, oh my God, I feel horrible. Because they're going to take that. They see that. Of course they do. And they don't want to be like, I made you feel bad because I'm homeless. Right? Because they're humans. I would feel the same way. You're like, oh my God, I'm sorry that I'm hurting you by being in despair.
mood. Yeah.
I know.
I'm
Anyway.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
a mess. All right, so
But it's a big
we'll talk
lesson to
tomorrow.
learn because a lot of people do that. Okay, we'll talk
Yeah?
tomorrow. Absolutely. And I'll try to make sure
Okay.
I'm charged up. But that was a good 55 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
right.
All right.
Thank
bye.
you. It's always so good. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.